Welcome to the College Recruiting During COVID-19 webinar discussion presented by NCSL. I'm Ryan Rich, the NCSL Executive Director. We have a great group of college coaches on with us today to talk about the college recruiting process and how it's changed during this time. As youth, family, and players know, the spring season has been suspended and could quite possibly be canceled for the rest of this season, which has left players that are in the college recruiting process in a bit of a lurch with how to proceed. So we wanted to put this webinar and discussion together to hear college coaches about how the college recruiting process has been affected and could possibly be affected if the suspension continues. And also to give players that are in the college recruiting process some helpful tips or guidance as they try to navigate at this point in time. So with that, I'd like to introduce our college coach panel. First, we have Tommy DeNuzzo, who is a head men's soccer coach at Hampden-Sydney College. Liz Pike, who is a head women's soccer coach at Shenandoah University. Matt Thompson, who is a head men's coach at the University of the District of Columbia. And Zach Davis, who is the assistant women's coach at George Washington University. Again, thank you all for being on this discussion, and we'll hop right into it. First question is for Tommy. How has the recruiting process changed in the current COVID-19 environment, both maybe from a general perspective, but also how have you changed your approach yourself?
Yeah, so I think for most of us, this is a really critical time of year. Generally, you're kind of done recruiting seniors. Your class is kind of finalized or very close to that being the case. And you're kind of in the middle of identifying a lot of juniors if you haven't already, and then kind of starting the process with them, getting them on campus, getting to know them, and seeing them play in person quite a bit and really prioritizing that. So unfortunately, we can't do that right now. Our staff, and I think many others, are kind of going back and reassessing basically their pool of players for their junior class right now, and getting more and more organized with that. And then also finding creative ways to potentially identify players and see players play. So, whether that's through individual highlight videos, whether it's through requesting full game video from club coaches that you're familiar with or from clubs that you normally recruit from. So things like that you kind of have to put in place to kind of make sure this isn't lost time. And from a coaching standpoint, that's what we've been trying to do. And then also to kind of prepare ourselves for whenever this ends, we want to make sure we're organized between now and then so we can kind of hit the ground running and make up for lost time, get a lot of players on campus, and again, just further the process in a lot of ways during this critical time.
Sure. Thanks, Tommy, for that. And obviously everybody's in a wait-and-see approach about how this is all going to play out. And, with some officials saying it's going to be done by June and some, saying this could really impact things going into possibly next year. And so I want to follow that with maybe Matt asking you if there are foreseeable impacts or if it just extends into the summer and then bleeds into the fall and possibly past that. How do you, it's more speculation at this point, but how could you see things changing or college coaches or programs having to adapt if that were the case?
Yeah, I think Tommy touched on it a little bit there. I think there'll be a little bit more reliance on video highlights, possibly asking for more full games, which we wouldn't usually do. We'd be going out to see them play. But full games on videos. We'll probably have to talk more to club coaches, be on the phone a little bit more and asking for their opinions. And hopefully when the season does begin, whenever that might be, who knows, June, July, August, whenever that might be, us as coaches will be out and about and traveling as much as possible to as many tournaments. I know that the Jefferson Cup has moved to, for the boys, has moved to July 29th, I believe. So, we'll have to reschedule look at the tournaments that are going to be rescheduled and make sure we get out to those. And for the players, you know, they really need, especially juniors, 21s, need to be out playing as much as possible. You know, a lot of the guys will have to change their summer plans maybe on vacations and things like that, so that junior class can be seen. And hopefully the colleges will reschedule their ID clinics. So again, you know, I think as coaches we'll have to try and visit other campuses while they're doing their ID clinics, so we can see the boys play as well. So yeah, I think it's going to be a big change, but hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be out there July, August, hopefully, and we'll be able to see the boys play.
Sure, thanks, Matt, for that. And I guess to transition a little bit to you know, some of the regulations that may or may not change during this time. You see in the news that NCAA has taken action in other sports, canceling the college basketball tournament and scrambling a bit to see how some of the guidelines they give to universities and programs need to be updated for this kind of unprecedented event that we're going through. And you know, I think it's kind of confusing on the maybe the youth, family, or player side to understand what's okay to do, what to do during this time. So maybe to Liz, what changes has NCAA put into place or not really addressed yet, and what might be on the horizon here?
Right. I mean, I think the NCAA is really trying to get a hold on the current situation, which just took place, which was our spring sports, right? So baseball, softball, the lacrosses, these teams that their seasons ended, and the NCAA has come out that they are giving all seniors, in fact, all student athletes, eligibility for another year, which has, you know, kind of alleviated some of the, you know, upsetment for those athletes that they do, in fact, get another year of eligibility. Moving forward, there hasn't been right now talk about how this will affect, you know, the fall sports coming in, which hopefully it won't. So that's kind of where we are. We're just looking for guidance. How do we proceed? We're in the same position as a lot of, you know, the athletes. You know, speaking, you know, Matt, I think, just spoke about, you know, coaches changing up their prospect camps. There's just a lot of change in regard to the individual institutions right now. But in regards to the NCAA, we haven't had to cross that bridge in regard to, you know, any major plan changes. We are still expecting to come in at our regular preseason dates. We're proceeding normally right now in regards to what our fall seasons look like. So that's the best I can give you at this time in regards to the NCAA and any changes or mandates being made right now.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that. And I guess to follow up on that, with regards to what a student athlete needs to keep in mind, you know, it sounds like even from the college program end of things, it's still a little murky about what exactly is going to come out of this, what guidance is going to come out of it. But from at this point in time, is there anything guidance and changing, you know, for the student athlete? Do they need to be aware of any changes, or does the behavior need to change at all at this point in time with regards to contacted coaches or anything along those lines?
Is that for me or Zach?
Oh, sorry, Zach.
Right.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think right now with, you know, Liz talked a lot about obviously what's going on with spring sports. I mean, for us at the Division I level, they extended the dead period, so that means there's no on-campus contacts and there's no camps right now, and so that kind of puts a lot of different wrinkles into it for us when it comes to recruiting, I think. But right now, I mean, student athletes just have to be aware of, like, that is what's going on with everyone, especially at, Division I believe the Division II level as well. So they just kind of have to be a little bit positive about and what they can do for themselves, and some things they can think about a little bit at this time is just continue to email and letting the coaches know their interest and keeping them updated on what's going on with them.
Sure. I appreciate that. And I guess now transitioning, it was mentioned at the beginning of the call, especially with some of these events having to be pushed out, and a lot of these juniors and seniors who were really looking to these tournament showcase events or their league play to really get in front of coaches. Now that those events have been canceled or potentially moved into the summer, and hopefully they'll be played, what can student athletes do at this point to be seen or to be scouted and to make the most of it there? So, Tommy, do you think that you could speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so kind of what I said at the beginning, this is such a critical time for us to identify and see players play. And it's more difficult to do that now, obviously. So, yeah, absolutely. I think the use of video is a great tool. I think if it's an initial interaction with the coach, initial email, and they're not as familiar with you, just sending like a short highlight video, 3-4 minutes, highlighting some of your strengths makes a ton of sense, just to give the coach some familiarity with you as a player. And then from there, or if it's a coach that knows you already, starting to send full game video makes sense, so they can, again, get a stronger grasp of the type of player you are, and kind of go from there. I mean, the other thing that I would highly recommend as far as players reaching out to coaches through email. So, I mean, we always talk about when you email a coach, you want to do your homework ahead of time. So now I see it as there's absolutely no excuse for that. So make sure, do your homework. And I think it's a great time to kind of narrow down your search as far as like doing your homework and knowing what schools have your major, what the state of their program is, and kind of making sure all those factors line up so it makes sense for you for a soccer standpoint as well. And then you can reach out to 8 to 10 coaches instead of 30, 10 schools that you're genuinely interested in, and then coaches can kind of prioritize making sure to see you play in person whenever that opportunity comes up. But absolutely using video well, and then using this time to make sure you're kind of sending genuine emails to coaches, and identifying why you're legitimately interested in their school or program.
Sure, and I think it's really important. I think for those those juniors and seniors, or especially who are in that full into the college recruiting process, and there's, I think, even more differentiation between, or digging deeper of that there's seniors right now who have lost out in their spring season. So those who weren't committed to a program, and now they can't play the full spring, and they're maybe relying on that, to really push them over the edge and to get into a program. And whereas juniors are probably in a slightly different position now that it's still having a full year, hopefully, in senior year to decide on what's a good program that fits them. So with that, Matt, could you give some guidance of what at this point in time, a senior in high school, what do they really need to focus on versus a junior, possibly a sophomore at this point in time, and has the advice may differ based on the graduation year?
Yeah, sure. And I'm kind of lucky in a way. I've got a son that's a senior and that plays soccer, and he's heading off to go play college soccer. So from a little bit of first-hand experience, the number one thing the seniors need to be doing is staying on top of their fitness. Having a daily workout schedule. Hopefully they're doing their online classes at the moment as well with their high schools. So I think it's really important to stay on a schedule. So if you have a classes, you have a break, you can do some kind of working out. You're still allowed to go out for runs at the moment. You can do some agility, some sprint work and things like that. You've got your body weight workouts that you can do at home. And I think what I've told my son and even my current college guys is to keep a journal of their workouts. Maybe that's a little bit of motivation for them. Keep any times of runs that they have. See if they can beat those scores, challenge themselves, maybe challenge each other, teammates. And one of the things that I know our college guys are having some issues sleeping. So I've actually told them to keep a little bit of a sleep journal, and it's kind of off the wall a little bit, but anything to keep them healthy and mentally on track, I think, is important. So for the seniors, it's stay on a schedule, make sure you're keeping your fitness up, trying to get touches on the ball, and doing as much as possible to be ready when the season begins, hopefully again in July or August or whenever that might be. For juniors, and I think Tommy just mentioned it as well, it's really a time right now for them to do some research the schools, look at the majors, dig deeper into the soccer programs, who are the coaches, what are their rosters, what are the size of the rosters, who are the players that are graduating and what year, what's their schedule like, when are their ID clinics, pencil in a schedule to go and do ID clinics, look at the results, is it a successful program, little things like that. And again, obviously the juniors, all soccer players should be trying to stay on top of their fitness, that's a given. They can be making highlight tapes, full games, and obviously stay in contact with the college coaches that they've already been in touch with and make new contacts if that's what they need to do. So I think there's a lot that these guys can still be doing, and there's a lot that we can be doing as coaches as well to help them through this process. It's uncharted territory, but I think if we as coaches can stay on top, we can definitely guide them and help them through. And sophomores is the same. Sophomores making highlight tapes, researching schools, and things like that will help them through this period.
Okay, thanks for that. And what's been mentioned a lot so far has been the use of highlight tapes, especially if you can't be on the field. Having that as another resource to provide college coaches. And we touched a little bit about that's something you should be doing, and possibly mentioned a little bit about the length regarding that. And Liz, do you think you can provide some, when these players are now relying on this main source of, to get in front of coaches and just to show what their abilities, what are some just key major themes that they should be keeping in mind when they're putting these things together and sending these to coaches, knowing that this is the primary medium that they're going to communicate with the coaches regarding their abilities?
Right, and I hear Tommy and Matt. I think we're kind of all saying the same thing. Right now, in regards to their highlight video, if it's an introduction and you're just reaching out to a new coach, that would be maybe a shorter, just a highlight, this is who I am. If you've already formed a relationship with a coach and perhaps, now this was the time where that coach said, hey, I know who you are, I know the club, now I need to see you play and was planning to, attend one of the upcoming showcases, then maybe you're sending a full game. And there's really nothing wrong with any of these prospective student athletes to reach out to the coach and ask them, hey, would you like me to send you I got a game, I can send you a highlight. That's kind of what can be happening right now. We're trying to build some of these relationships that we otherwise would have been building, via them coming onto campus and doing face-to-face conversations and meeting them and getting to know them. This is just another way for them to speak with us, whether that's via email. Obviously at Division III, we have some other ways of doing that. We can text, we can call, and Zach, you could chime in. I'm not sure, all the rules that you guys have to deal with in terms of that. But again, in regards to the highlight videos and getting that out to coaches, there's nothing wrong with shooting an email and asking that coach what do they want to see. Do they want to see a full game? Do they just want to highlight? If they do want to highlight, what do they want to see in that? That's kind of how we've been navigating. There have been players we've had relationships with already, so I don't necessarily need to see the whole game. Hey, show me, just do a highlight. Let me see some of the, your most updated stuff. And then there's some players that I haven't seen at all, and I'm going to need to send me full game footage. So, again, it just depends on the coach and what they want to see and where they are in the relationship with that player.
Okay, that makes sense. And and there obviously are, looking at the youth soccer, the club level, there are obviously players that have a lot of that video, that their clubs have, have taken that video and shared it with them, or have that ready to provide to players. But there are some players in clubs environments where they may not have access to that equipment or those highlight clips. And is there anything, maybe, and Zach, this is kind of pointing to you as a question, is there anything, in that kind of situation where you may not have access to video highlights or full games, that is there any other workarounds to really so coaches can get an idea of who you are as a player?
Yeah, I think everyone said some really good points, especially when it comes to the video right now. But there's the reality that, some people may not be as fortunate to have that video at this moment, which would be 100% a bummer just because of the new normal that we have right now. So all we can really do is go off of that film for the most part. But I believe Matt and Tommy both said something on terms of this, being able to reference a club coach is probably going to be extremely important right now. Probably one of the more important things that you can do at this time, especially if you haven't been able to get that film or give out that film, just because, in a time like this, we're not able to see you right now. We're going to have to at least get some reference. So maybe some references as your club coach, even your high school coaches. It might be good avenues for us to kind of get an idea of who you are as a player. The hope is, for a lot of us at this time, is, I think Liz was also talking about this, we have a prior relationship to you, so we have an idea of maybe what you are capable of. But if that's not the case, I think just using resources such as your club coach or high school coach is going to be of extreme importance. And to be honest with you, maybe even just getting creative with your film. I mean, if you have to, ask a friend or use someone else's equipment or do anything that you can at this time before, any other shutdown periods come for anybody, I would try to get as creative as you can to help yourself out, to really, put yourself out there for the college coaches.
Okay, thanks, Zach. And I guess move on to the next piece. And this is something that you look on social media, and that's pretty much all you see now is different challenges or clubs have, or different workout videos that coaches are putting together, which is great. And I think everybody's kind of scrambling to see how can we keep players involved and on the ball and engaged, and hoping maybe to get some input here about from a coach's perspective, what should they be thinking about based on kind of where they play on the field, and how it might look or be tailored to what a college coach might want a player to be doing. So Tommy, do you think you may hop on that topic and maybe give some pointers there about when players are inevitably going out and working with the ball? Are there any pointers beyond that they're kind of getting, or just kind of putting thinking of what they should be doing on their own that you would say that to focus on?
Yeah, so I do think, depending on your situation, it could be difficult to go out to a field or have access to, the type of facilities you really want. A lot of places are closed right now and that type of thing. But regardless, I still think, you can go out in your driveway, wherever else, and get touches and do it in a creative way and tailor it specifically to your position. So whatever that might be. If you're a center mid, you could find a wall to bounce balls off of and play and check your shoulder and receive and open up and do things specific to your position. But the important thing for me, just because, it's a difficult time for everyone without a doubt, you want to stay motivated and kind of put a plan in place. And I think Matt talked about it already, setting some goals, keeping a journal of what you're doing. It's something we've talked to our own players quite a bit about. All of our guys set goals for our spring season, which obviously isn't taking place now, but there's no reason they still can't reach those goals on their own. So I think kind of putting a plan in place initially, deciding you're going to, do X amount of juggles every day or work on your weaker foot every day, and then kind of stick to it and go from there. It makes a ton of sense to me, and I think it kind of keeps you motivated and kind of aids this whole process, not just with soccer, but helps you kind of make the most of this entire situation in general, for sure.
Great. And so in a lot of things you see right now are kind of geared towards, getting a lot of touches on the ball and that sort of thing. I think what kind of can be lost in that is, what goalkeepers should be doing. And Zach, as a former college goalkeeper and current goalkeeper coach in GW, I mean, from that end, like what really can goalkeepers be doing at this point in time, or are there specific on activities that they should be really focusing on, especially knowing what you want out of a goalkeeper at the collegiate level?
Yeah, 100%. I think there's a ton that goalkeepers can be doing as well. Tommy was talking a lot about, creating a plan. I think that's also just one of the first things that you need to do is you need to create a plan every day, kind of get into a rhythm of what you would like to do and what your goals are. But for a goalkeeper, I mean, it's a unique position just for the fact that, most of your training is going to have with someone serving balls to you or someone's going to be helping you with your training, but that doesn't mean that you can't do any individual stuff at all. So for me, speaking to goalkeepers or our goalkeepers at GW, a lot of the things that we've talked about or, that I've, kind of, shared with them, I think the biggest thing for a goalkeeper right now is, one, you can get out into your driveway. You can do a ton of, plyometric work, quick agility work, quick sprint work, everything that involves anywhere from, 10 to 20 yards of sprinting, 5 to 10 yards of backpedaling and shuffling. Those are some things and some ideas that, that you can work on, those movements that would be super important for you in the goal. And then also, it's going to be a great time for you to get some ball work with your feet as well. It's an extremely important part to it. Getting a wall, getting a bounce back, anything like that. It's just as much as a field player would do it. I think the game has progressed so much where the goalkeeper has to be comfortable with their feet. I think, this is a perfect time for goalkeepers to work on that. And then with that, if you have a wall, you can do a lot of things with yourself, volley into a wall, get it set, and then get it to your hands. You still use different exercises for your hands. So I wouldn't change too much. I still think there's a lot of things that goalkeepers can do at this time that are super important. I think the biggest things that I would say are, definitely working on your feet, but most importantly, probably that fitness piece with your core and quickness and agilities, and those little movements that you do within the goal are really huge for you right now. But don't forget, you can still work on, your technique, set position, and handling as well. Just got to get a little more creative with it and what you can do, but it's more than doable for sure.
Can I add one more thing, Ryan?
Sure.
So the other thing I think players can be doing right now that I forgot to mention is I think it's also a great time to watch some video of some professional players in your position, and maybe some players you don't know about from a few years ago. And I think sometimes that helps kind of motivate you and maybe give you some ideas of what you can be working on technically. And again, I think it's very, very motivating and very stimulating in a lot of ways. So I think taking this time to find creative ways to watch a video, not necessarily an entire game, but maybe just, video clips of a great forward, if you're a forward, someone that scored a ton of goals, and kind of looking at that.
Great. Thanks for pointing that out. I think, I think players can get off of FIFA and then tune more into games. I think that'd probably be helpful for them, especially growing as a player. And, before we close, again, I appreciate all the input that's been, and feedback that's been provided so far. And just to close, maybe each coach, starting maybe with Tommy, then Liz, Matt, and Zach, just hop in with quick, hey, this is, if there's a take-home message that during this time of really what you think is really important, maybe just quickly just stating that before we close. So, Tommy, again, you start of just what's one big thing that you think players, should be thinking about or keeping in mind during this time?
Yeah, I mean, I just think in general, regardless of the recruiting process or anything else, players just have to see this as an opportunity and make the most of it, whether it's putting some of the things in place we've talked about with contacting coaches or working on your own game, that type of thing. But just kind of, again, staying positive, seeing this as an opportunity, and making the most of this free time you have.
Yeah, it's just a mindset right now. You have a choice. How are you going to look at maybe a situation that we're faced with right now and how we're going to move forward in it? This can be an unbelievable opportunity for them to really sit down and, you know, form some really strong relationships with coaches and narrowing down schools that really make sense for them. Instead of hoping schools are just reaching out to them at these showcases, they're actually going to take charge of their destiny, so to speak, and they're going to decide, you know, where do they want to be and what makes sense for them, and reach out to those coaches.
Yeah, I think at this time, I mean, for the prospective student athletes, I mean, this is an unprecedented time. I think the biggest thing is the mindset aspect of it. If you all, you know, when you're going through this time, just be as positive as you can at this time. I think, you know, we're all trying to figure out this new normal as a group and trying to, try to figure out what's the best avenue for everyone going on. So a lot of people are in the same boat, but I would just say the biggest thing is continue to stay motivated. You know, there's still a lot that you can do and a lot of things you can still be successful during this time. And then that positive mindset, as simple as it might be, it's a huge part of something that you can do every day. You know, continue to be positive, continue to try to grow and try to get better each day. You know, it's all going to work out. You know, at times it might seem like it's going to be tough, but overall it's going to be all right. And, you know, continue to stay positive with everything.
Yeah, this is Matt, and I just, you know, going on what everyone else is saying, I think the mental health is really the biggest focus at the moment. I think the seniors especially are going through a lot of anxiety. You know, they're not in school, they're wondering about their prom, they've missed their season, possibly for high school. So they've got a lot going on. So I think it's just really important that they try and stay on a schedule where possible, set times to work out, get touches on the ball, spend time with family, and really just stay fit and healthy. I think that's the biggest message that we can get through at this time.
Great. I'd like to thank all four of you for taking the time and answering questions, and I think this will be really valuable for players and that are trying to navigate this time and who are in the college recruiting process and kind of need some guidance. So I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts. I think it'd be really valuable. And for those who are listening, if you want to add any comments or ask any follow-up questions, you can put that in the comment section of this video, and we'll follow up with you and provide some answers there if you have any additional questions. Again, thank you all for tuning in. Thanks to the coaches for being part of this, and wish everybody the best of luck as they navigate this uncertain time.